Welcome back. We're glad you're still here with us. I'm Keely Fulton. Our coverage of the John Goodman trial continues this noon.
Hi, everybody. We expect the judge and the attorneys to return to court this afternoon to reject and approve more jury candidates. News Channel 5's Roxanne Stein is there with a look at what's to come. Roxanne, hi again.
Well, a lot has happened in the last half hour. I've got several new developments to tell you about. Judge Colbath adjourned for lunch at 12:15. They're going to get back together in the courtroom on the 11th floor of the Palm Beach County Courthouse at 1:30 this afternoon. Also, he requested that 20 new potential jurors be called out of the jury pool on the first floor of the courthouse and be brought up to be interviewed as possible jurors in the John Goodman DUI manslaughter trial. Now, he also told the jurors this morning who were questioned and who both sides decided to keep for further questioning to report back to the courthouse tomorrow morning at 8:30. And just before they adjourned, defense attorney Roy Black told the judge that he thinks they can seat a jury by 5 o'clock tomorrow night. So now this is changing the timetable of things. I'd say probably more than a little bit. The words arduous process that we use at 12 o'clock definitely coming into play here. We have a lot to get to with our legal analyst and local criminal defense attorney Michele Sugo. But first, we want to talk a little bit more about this morning's court proceedings and some of the sidebars that occurred and what that means to the overall trial once testimony gets underway. To continue our team coverage, let's go to Christina Mora. Good morning, or good afternoon, Christina.
It's been a long morning, and good afternoon to you, Roxanne. Well, in the midst of all this jury selection that we've been talking about, the prosecutors put in a request to the judge to allow the civil attorneys of Scott Wilson's family to be allowed to partake in that sidebar process. Now, the sidebar, that's when the state, the defense, Goodman himself, and the judge talk privately at the bench. That happens a lot throughout this process. But Judge Colbath denied that request, saying that legally Wilson's attorney doesn't have a right to listen in on that, but they can request the public record for a verbatim on what was said during those.
I completely understand how come he gets to go up there and it was my family that was as involved and ultimately more involved than Mr. Goodman, whatever happens to him, and I just don't, it doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel fair. And I completely get that. That makes the perfect sense intuitively, but this is a strange rule with a strange land with strange rules, and technically the Wilsons or the victims or the survivors of the victims, they're not clients. They're, in the eyes of the law, complaining witnesses.
Now, besides that issue, most of today really was focused on picking a jury and all of the elements that goes along with that. So for more on that process, let's get back to Roxanne.
And we want to bring in now, thank you, Christina, our legal analyst and local criminal defense attorney Michele Sugo. Okay, let's start from the top down. Within the last half hour, Roy Black has said 5 o'clock tomorrow. At one point, it was looking like it was going to be 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
That's right.
Definitely not happening. The judge made a promise that this thing would be over by next Friday.
And he said that several times because there are some folks who have some conflicts that are not resolvable. People are going to be going on, Palm Beach County has spring break. So that could be a problem, and those folks may be excluded because this case may be spilling over into the following week. The judge said 7 to 8 trial days. We haven't started yet.
Is it possible the judge has a conflict? I mean, does he want to get out by next?
No, I think the judge has probably scheduled several weeks on his calendar for this, but he is real sensitive about the sacrifice that these potential jurors may have to make and sitting on this case because it's significant.
And now to the other issue about the state approaching and asking if the Wilson family's civil attorneys could approach as John Goodman approaches. Every time there's a question for the judge or they want to discuss something, John Goodman does approach the bench with his attorneys, and Ellen Robertson, her assistant attorney, went up and asked if the Wilson family's attorney. Is that unusual?
It is unusual. It's not unusual that a civil action would arise out of this, especially it's a death case. But the civil attorneys don't have any place in a criminal case. This is the state of Florida versus John Goodman. This is the criminal case. There is a pending civil case set for trial at the end of the month, and that's the estate of Scott Wilson versus John Goodman. So the state of Florida, they're representing themselves. Now, of course, the victim has a say, and the victim's family has a say in terms of any settlement and in terms of any sentence. But again, it's not their place to participate in jury selection or this trial.
Is it unusual for jury selection to take this long? And do you think the jury will be seated by tomorrow night at 5?
I don't think it's unusual that it's taking this long because of the pervasive nature of the pretrial publicity. But if Roy Black is saying it and the state is agreeing, then it's going to be done because there's no court on Friday, no court on Monday, and they want to get this thing going.
So when this next group is called in, it will be 109 jurors starting at 2 o'clock who have been called in and interviewed by the judge and both attorneys from both sides.
That's right. And there's no guarantee that that's going to be enough here to try to find 6 folks and 2 alternates to sit on this jury.
Well, there are still folks on the first floor waiting, so we'll see what happens throughout the afternoon. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
We'll continue to follow this as the questioning will continue this afternoon. Attorneys are back in the courtroom with the judge at 1:30, and as I mentioned before, the new group of potential jurors, they have not yet been in the courtroom. They will be called in and given their pre-interviews and then interviewed more extensively when they decide to keep a few out of that group of 20, if they decide to keep any of them. We'll be following that all afternoon. That's the very latest from the Palm Beach County Courthouse in downtown West Palm Beach. For the entire team providing the team coverage, I'm Roxanne Stein. Back to you.
All right, Roxanne, thank you very much. And of course, folks can go to our website. We have a special John Goodman trial section, WPTV.com.
This is really interesting. I mean, it's so ambitious what the judge said, that this trial is going to be wrapped up a week from Friday, when here we are day 2 and not even 6 people on that jury yet. So we will watch and see.
Well, some new recommendations.